Hi and welcome, Joe here over at woollycottage.com. So I promised you I would get a video sorted, and I'm ahead on my Christmas advents. I think I've only got 1, 2, 3 bats left to do, so I'm quite happy to get this video done for you a bit earlier than I thought I would be able to do. Right, so we did a little vote back a few months ago now, God, it feels like forever ago, about what you'd like me to do for the next part of this year, get us through to Christmas, because I've got a couple of Christmas advert videos that I have to get filmed up as well for YouTube. And one of the suggestions was Rolags, working with a blending board, Rolags and sort of mini bat type things. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So I am putting 2 of these packs together. I'm doing Rolags. So I thought I will start down at the root of, remember the topic we were on about not long ago about wool ratios. So when you're working with wool and you're blending with fibres to go in them, then I thought that's where I'll start. We'll start really basic, really easy, and something for you to play around with. So I'll be putting these 2 of them together, and I'll be putting both these sets of Rolags, 6 of each in each of these packs. So at least there's 2 there on the website for you to use. There won't be as many as what I normally put on there, the bats and the blend sets and everything else. So I thought I'll put 2 packs of Rolags on. So the first one we're going to work with, which I'll show you in a minute, is this one. Now this is Kent Romney, and it has been blended with Royal Baby Angora. Okay, really lovely soft. It's got a little bit of a halo you can just make out there. Right, so there's that one, and the second one we're going to make later on is this one, which is Layen wool. So the Welsh wool, a nice Welsh wool, really lofty and bouncy wool, but I blended it with a extra bleach tussar silk and a natural tussar silk. So that's blended in there, and in these 2 packs, there'll be 6 of each of these, and you can see straight away there is a massive difference, so you'll be able to tell which ones are apart. Okay, and they're slightly different ratios. So I thought I'll give this a go and see what you think of this. Hopefully you'll like this video. Don't forget, you can hit that thumbs up underneath the video, even if it is a private one that you guys are on a link to. It just helps the algorithm. Even if it's a private linked video, that thumbs up and comments on there really do help my channel. Okay, so I'm going to tilt you down. Hopefully I can get this sorted, but I wanted to talk, actually I just want to mention first, right, just in case you're new and you've never used Rolags or you're not quite sure about them, because I know I've got a couple of new members on here. Thank you very much for joining in. You want to go and if you've got any friends that would like to come over to Patreon, there is a video that's available for all free members, and it's telling you about the changes that are coming. Thank you to Apple Store. And if you join after, I think it's the 1st of November, you want to access Patreon, I'll just say this now, access Patreon via an Android phone, Android tablet, or from your desktop, and get your membership in that way. Do not download the Patreon app on an iPhone or an Apple iPad, because they're actually topping up the fees and charging us lot as content creators extra money. So if I've got a £3 membership from somebody, once the fees come off for Patreon and Apple take their cut off, I'm left with about 50 pence out of that £3, and then it goes through to PayPal, and I'm probably left with about 35 pence. So just to let you know that from November onwards, if you know anyone that wants to come and join, that's the method to go. That means I get exactly what I'm entitled to, plus my commissions that get taken off my fees anywhere else, and I still make at least a couple of pound from the different memberships. Anyway, I just thought I'd say that now. Right, so we'll get back onto this. Rolags. Rolags are commonly used to spin short fibres such as cotton, mohair, alpaca. But with spinners wanting these days to blend easily accessible fibres with their wool, such as plant-based fibres and silks, you want to experiment a little bit more. You want to play with colours a little bit more. You want to more or less do what you do on a drum carder, but because it's such an expensive piece of equipment, the blending boards become your friend. Okay, so Rolags are created to spin a woolen yarn, all right, traditionally with hand carders. But if you're like me and you've got little hands, a little bit of arthritis in your hands or something like that, you find carders are really quite hard to work with, which is how they were traditionally done. then you've got the blending board now to do that exact same thing. Okay, so you'd still do the same as what you're doing on a carders, but you're using your hands more in a manipulative way, and more rather than using two hand carders that are pulling and fighting against each other. And for a lot of us some of us have got chronic pain conditions or arthritis, then that can be really quite detrimental to our movements and actions, and strainers in the shoulders. I mean, you sit there on your lap and you do the carding, and then you create your Rolags and your cloud fluffs and stuff like that. But the blending board, to some genius, has become our best friend for those that can't use them or find them really hard to use. So your Rolags create a light and airy woolen yarn. Because when you're spinning with the fibre, spinning with your Rolags, the wool comes out and the fibres are crisscrossing across each other. Even if you're using a top, a process roving that's gone through the milling machines, and all the fibres are going in the exact same direction, okay? And you're blending it down the board in the exact same direction from top to bottom. But when you're spinning with that, once you've rolled it up and you're spinning, these Rolags, these fibres then start to crisscross against each other and become a little bit knotted, a little bit frayed, they'll tangle into each other. And when you're spinning it, traditionally as an English long draw or a long draw, depending on where you come from, but traditionally it's called an English long draw, those fibres will come out and they'll spin, and you're pulling it back, but the air's trapping into those fibres to make it more lofty. And traditionally this will be used for knitting garments, such as shawls, scarves, Aran jumpers, cable knit jumpers, ganzis, that sort of thing. So the type of clothing that you want to use for layering that doesn't have a drape on it, but it's that sturdy working type gear. You can go for a walk with a dog and just throw the big thick jumper on instead of putting on, because the air inside there will help trap in, and it agitates inside the wool, you see, when you're walking and moving around with it. So that actual air bubbles and pockets that are still inside that wool that you've knitted into this project, into this jumper, it's trapping all the air in there, okay? All that air that's trapped in there from your spinning is then agitated against your skin and your body's movements and motions, and actually warms up, making you warm. It's like a chemical reaction. It's really quite bizarre, but it works. So to the point you actually have to take your jumper off because it's -20 outside, but you're roasting because your jumper's actually working to keep you warm. Okay, so that's what traditionally Rolags are for. Now you do have poonies. Now poonies, the difference between poonies and Rolags is that a poonie is visibly denser and tighter than a Rolag, and you would use probably just 2 dowels when you work. I mean, to make my Rolags I use 3, or I use large chunky knitting needles to do them. But the thinner you use as a dowel in to help turn it around, the thinner, the smaller and the denser those fibres become, and quite more tighter and compact. And traditionally and usually you only make poonies for using short fibres such as cotton, or if you like to mess around with sari silk oil, because there's lots of long fibres and short fibres and everything else in there, you can spin them, but you want to roll them into a puny. Okay, so traditionally that's what it's used for. Or if you've got bamboo and soya fibre staple lengths, which you can buy, you can get soya top, but this is soya bean staple lengths. Now that is what you're going to be working with. There's about between ½ an inch and an inch, and you can use that and blend that up into poonies and work with that. That would be amazing. And then ply it with something, because then again you could just spin loads and loads and loads of them, couldn't you, really, to get the garment you're looking for. If you're looking for using cotton, this is Egyptian cotton top. Don't be misconstrued. If it says cotton top, it's still going to have the short fibres in it. It's just gone through a slightly different processing. So this is a cotton top. Egyptian cotton top is the best quality one that you want to get. And look at the shortness of those fibres. You've got 1 inch. So again, poonies. So that's what you're looking for. Or if you buy a fleece and it's got a lot of second cuts inside it, you know, when somebody's the fleece has been cut by hand and they shear it, and they've got most of the fleece off, but then they've got big clumps and they cut another inch off of it. That's your second cuts in there. if you collect them, stick them to one side, you can make poonies from that as well, or blend it with this, because that's what I would do. I would like, if I'm using this stuff, I use it as just a little bit of a highlight. It's not something I put a lot of into my wools. Or I'll spin it with alpaca fibre or Surrey alpaca or llama or something like that. And then you've got a ratio. Okay, so back to ratios. So the ratio that I'm working with today is this wool here and Royal Baby Alpaca. Sorry, I've got a guy out the front being really nosy looking at neighbours' gardens. Nosy old gotcha. Right, so I have got this beautiful, gorgeously fluffy, soft baby royal Angora. Beautiful, stunning, is beautiful. It really, really is soft. So I thought I'll pair it with the Kent Romney that I've got. So I'm going to split this into 3 sections, right? And I've split my baby royal alpaca into 2 sections, and we'll see why. So I'm just going to tilt you down. There you go. You can see what I'm doing. So there's the top of my board. I know I'm a bit upside down. There's the top of my board and there's the bottom of my board. Okay. And what I'm going to do now, it's not to say that you can't, but I prefer not to. I don't like to put on my fine fibres, my silks, my thrum type fibres, lumpy neps and stuff like that. I don't like to put them on first. There's nothing that says out there that you don't have to, or you have to, or whatever. Personally, I don't like doing it. I find that when I'm starting to take the Rolags off, sometimes I end up with lots of bits of fibres left behind. So what I like to do traditionally, and how I've always done it myself, is I like to work with the wool first. So I put on a layer of my wool, and I literally just put it in the top, and then I motion it down the board with my hand in a straight line, the same direction as all the fibres that come out of my roving. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll look for my blank spots to make sure that they're filled in. And I find as well, a lot of the time I've got quite a lot of fibre around about this section down, and I've not got much up on my top, which gives me a really odd weight on my Rolags. So I like to go just along a little bit up the top to make sure that I sort of even out the weight of my Rolags, and then I'll just finish this piece of roving off. Okay, and then I'm going to get my brush and I'm going to pack that down. So now I'm going to get my Royal Baby Angora, and I'm just going to gently, it's just as soft as the Egyptian cotton, it's that soft. And this will be a 90-10 ratio. So I have got about 100 grams, I think it was about 98 grams of Kent Romney. And then I've added this fibre on. It's probably actually more of a 15% to 85 ratio when I think on now. So if we go with 15 to 85% ratio of Kent Romney wool with Royal Baby Alpaca, which I think is just a nice ratio, because when this fibre, this Angora is spun up with the wool, you've got the strength and durability of this traditional Welsh wool, the Kent Romney, with the Angora, which is really, really soft and fine and very flighty. I think they really complement each other, but you'll end up with a slight halo, like if you were working with a mohair, but it's just so much more extremely soft in comparison to a mohair, like a kid mohair. So yeah, I just keep going down like this until I've got all my little dark spots blended up. So you just the palm of your hand on there and just help press in those fibres, and again pack that into the board. So I always weigh out my wools before I start, and I always trying to aim for 100, for about 100 gram weight, 120, which means I can get a nice round 12 Rolags off from that amount of wool. I split them up into 4 groups, and then I take off 3-ish, 2 to 3 rovings off each blending board blend. Usually 3. There we go. So that's another fibre of the Angora put on that layer. So far I've already done 1 layer of wool, 1 layer of the Royal Baby Angora, then another layer of wool, and then another layer, the last of my baby Angora, and then my last layer of this Kent Romney wool. Just keep going on like this. I may want to, before I get any further, just give it a quick pack down, and then I can see where the areas are where I think it needs covered a little bit more. So you may be able to see there's little patches there, there's a little patch there where it looks like there's not much fibre packing in place. So I just use this now just to build up those sections that I think could do with a little bit more. There we go. And then down there, a bit up there, and a bit up there, and a bit more there. And pack that down. Now, traditionally Rolags were used, as we said, either with hand carders or for spinning short fibres. Now, if you want to go down that route, you really want to be looking for any type of wools if you want the shorter fibres. Carolias, Shetland, Cheviot and Jacob. You want a lofty wool, one that's got a nice bounce to it. You can use any wools, to be fair, when you're using your blending board, but personally I would avoid using, if you're processing from a fleece and you've got first clip, Teeswater, Wensleydale or Masham, you want to avoid using them on your blending board because you could be there forever trying to roll your Rolags. And the same when it comes to working with my drum carder as well. So I've learned from trial and errors, if you want to buy a fleece and it's a second cut, which means you go literally from a 32 centimetre staple length, it could be anywhere between 23 to 32 centimetre staple length for a Teeswater and Wensleydale, from a first clip fleece. But if you go for a second cut, you're looking at more the end of, say, 12 to 19, 20, which is not too bad, and it probably make your life a little bit more manageable if that's the type of wools that you're working with. If you're buying your roving from a supplier, like your wool mills in Yorkshire and stuff like that, Teeswater I would definitely still avoid. I would still avoid a Wensleydale in the rovings because it is really, really long, but you have got a mass selection of different types of breeds to work with, to avoid getting yourself in a tangle on this. And to be fair, those type of wools don't really want to be spun as a woolen yarn anyway, because they're really glossy, really sleek, and they really make better for a worsted wool that has a drape in it. That's what those wools are ideally used for when it comes to spinning. You want to spin them in a worsted way, not in a Rolag if you can help it. Right, so I'm just doing my first little Rolag. I'm just pulling it down. Those needles, can you see that there? Pulling that all the way down those needles. And I'm just going to lift that up a little bit. And there we go. And I give it a little twist with my hand just to make it a little bit firmer and neat and tidy. It's not as fly away. And then push out my first one, take out my second one, And there we go, is one blended 85 to 15% Rolag. So again, as I say, I like to stick with around 3 number when it comes to doing my Rolags on my board. So once I get through my 120 grams worth of fibres that I've weighed out beforehand, I end up with a nice 12 Rolags, a nice dozen. There we go. Again, so you're drafting the fibres along the tines of your blending board, but at the same time you're twisting, which is a bit of a weird sensation when you're doing that, because you're doing 2 things at once. But so if I just go under, so there we go, underneath, I'm going to tuck in the sides here, which is what I'd usually do. Then I get my 2 thin dowels and then pull over the top, tuck underneath those 2, use my stomach just to prop my board well, and then gently lift them fibres and then drag down the board and roll a bit, drag down the board and roll a bit, and then all the way back up to there, drag, drag, just give it a little gentle lift up again, drag, drag, and just gently, and you get this bundle here that will come off the edge. I generally twist my hands over with my Rolag and try and straighten those fibres just a little bit and draft them down the needles, the tines of my blending board until it becomes really nice. But then again, it is the Angora. It has got an airy halo to it. It spins up divinely. But with this type of fibre, you do not, I say do not, I wouldn't mess around with a 30-70 ratio of this fibre. I think a 15 to 85 ratio is just the perfect ratio for blending with this baby Angora, because it is so soft and it brings down the micron count feel. It sounds like, not completely, I mean there's a technology to it, but the softness of this wool now in comparison to what it was before I blended it is miles apart. So there we go, we have got 3 Rolags blended up with a 15% ratio to 85 of Royal Baby Royal Baby Angora wool fibre with a Kent Romney. Okay. So we're back with this one, which is now the Len, and that's the staple length of that. It's not massively long, but it's a nice length. You can spin that from the roving anyway, but blended wise, it's a lovely length to work with on a blended board. So again, I'm going to split that into 3 sections to work with, and this one's going to be done a slightly different. I have got extra bleached Tussar silk, really lovely fibre. And again, this is not a massively long fibre. You can spin these up into poonies as well. You see how long that fibre is. That one you can spin up into poonies as well. It's got a lovely shortish staple length, but it's gorgeously lovely, soft, shiny look to it. Again, this is the natural, so there's a difference between the extra bleached and the natural. I prefer the natural one, but I work with both of them depending what look I want when I'm blending my art bats. So put that to one side. So again, we're going to use one of my sections of my roving, okay, of my Welsh wool, and I'm going to come down, straight up, down, oh. Okay, so once done that, I'm going to come down here, blend them through. Now I'm going to get my bleached Tussar silk first. I'm going to put that on first. and just put that on there like you would normally do. Now this ratio is 30-70 because I thought, well, the Layan wool is, I think if I remember rightly, and I have to double check this, but I'm positive it's a 31 to 33 micron count. And I just thought, I love the sheen of this Tussar silk, and it has got a little bit of a grip. It's not a slippy silk as such like the mulberry silk. It's a nice, lovely, it's got a lovely sheen to it. It's really gorgeous to work with. But I thought, well, with the Layan and the silk, it makes a beautiful looking wool, and it maybe this bring the softness down a little bit. Is what I was thinking. I just like the look of them together, and it's, you don't see many breeds being blended on my suppliers. The Shetland gets blended with silks. It's very expensive, so by doing it this way, you're cutting out A, the middleman, but B, also making something really unique that somebody else wouldn't have. But a 30-70 ratio, a 70-30 ratio wool to Tussar silk, perfect mix completely. The wool's got that crimp in it that it'll hold that silk in place when you're spinning with it. The silk isn't the most finest, as in like slippery. It won't grip to itself. It's got, I wouldn't say a crimp on it, but I suppose it has to a point. Let me have a look. It's got a wave to it, a natural wave. That's it, natural. And it does have, it's not completely straight fibres. I'll show you. Hold on a second. I have got some mulberry silk here. There's some mulberry silk. Let me just find the end of this, and we'll have a look. There we go. So this is mulberry silk, and it is really, really long, very, very straight fibres. Can you see that? Very straight fibres. So when you're spinning with it, it tends to want to come out in clumps. Okay, and it's a very long length to that as well. Really, really long. Whereas this, it has got a bit of a kink to it. And when I look at it, I feel like it wants to quite happily grip to something with a stronger crimp as well. I just feel it's easier to work with than the actual mulberry silk, which is seriously, seriously slick and slippery. And less is more. This, if I was doing this on this, I would only have a 10 or a 15 ratio, or I would blend it with another fibre as well. I don't know, say a camel, mulberry silk and another wool to it, to bring that 70-30 ratio. Okay, so now I'm going to get, or I'm not, I'm going to pack this down first. There we go. Now I'm going to get my natural state Tussar silk before it's been bleached or anything like that. It's how it comes out the bag, as to say, such. There we go. Blend that in there. Try and find, there we go, a little bit at the top. So we've got these two different shades. It's like a two-tone. So you've got the white, extra white looking Tussar silk, and you've got this creamy sheen. So when you spin this, it's going to have a two-tone effect, which should look really, really pretty. There we go. There we go, and that's that. Again, quick pack down, and I've got a little bit more silk to put in here, which is the second layer. So we did, the first layer was layer of wool. My second layer was this bleached Tussar silk, and then the next layer after that was more wool. Then it was the natural Tussar silk, then some more wool of the Layan, and then we're adding now this last layer, which I don't mind doing. Again, I would never put this on the first layer because it's such a slick thing that I'm going to get left with lots of, I I say lots of, I always feel like I get left with fibres stuck between my tines and they don't quite pick them up all the way when I'm working with this type of fibre. So I like to incorporate them inside. But look, at the end of the day, it doesn't make no difference because you can still see the fibres. They're not stuck inside the wool that you're not going to see them because you've not started off with them first. I just don't like wastage. And I don't like to have to clean up my board to try and get fibres out, which I'll end up putting in the bin. These types of fibres are very, very expensive to buy in the grand scheme of things. Tissue silk now costs about nearly £5 for 50 grams. So it's a lot of money when you're buying it in a stock and if you're buying it for yourself as well. Right, so again, I'm going to lift up those fibres, pop them underneath my 2 dowels. Just gently lift that, good squeeze, lift it up, squeeze and turn. And at the same time, I'm coming down the tines of my board and I'm going to leave that like that, lift that up so it goes up and I can get my dowels back underneath it. So again, with my hand, just ever so gently, just clasping my hands, no gripping, just clasping my hands around my dowels and my Rolag to refine. And there we go. One really, really pretty jewel toned Layen silk Rolag. And again, so 2 dowels on the top, 1 underneath, tuck in my little side so I catch all the fibres when I'm blending. Well, when I'm drafting them down the board. Just put that against myself and pull down the tines. You can hear the fibres combing along the tines of the board. And I'm going to lift those up. There we go. Push that back. That's that one there. And the last one, pull those fibres over and those there. Draft down your board. The tines will do the work for you. See those fibres all the way down there, and then roll it back up. And keep doing that, and just ever so gently lift up that lot so I don't end up with a knotty mess. There we go, all done. Push that up. Take my dowel out, take my second dowel out and my last one out, and there we have 1, 2, 3, 70-30 ratio of the Layen and mixed tissue silk blend. That's another Layen where we need, bear with me a second. So there we go. You can see the difference of those. There we go, are the Royal Baby Angora blend with the Kent Romney, and that is a 85 to 15% ratio. Excuse me, I've got fibre at the back of my throat. And then we've got the Layen with the tissue silk, and that is a 70-30 ratio. Okay. So, I hope you found that really useful and regarding different ratios and getting started on rolling your Rolags. I do have some videos over my YouTube channel about Rolags and showing you how to do it a bit more in depth detail. I've got one that's got about 5,000 views on it, which I did about 2-3 years ago. It's supposed to be one of my most popular videos is the blending, and I've got a couple of live chats on there as well. Try not to breathe that fibre in. Live chats where I've done demos on doing Rolags as well, if you want to go and look them up. But I will do a couple more of these, and we'll talk about colour theory as well. Different colour fades. We'll experiment, we'll have a bit of a play with it, and then you can go off and try yourself. But I just want to cover a couple of topics specifically for as to why you would use Rolags, and that's so that if you've got wool at home and you've got fibres that you want to blend with that you can't source elsewhere, then you've got the capability of doing it yourself. But when it comes to ratios, it is your own choice. But I think sometimes when you've got ultra fine fibre such as raw baby alpaca or raw baby angora, alpaca, Surrey alpaca is another one, mohairs, kid mohair. You're working with those types of fibres, you want to bring down the ratio a little bit because they're very, very flighty, very, very soft, and they will create a halo, but you want to work with a halo that's manageable. But then if you want to bring your ratio up from 15 on that fibre blend with your wool, then do so by all means if you want to, but I wouldn't go any more than 30% ratio, 70-30 wool, 70 to your fibre that you're mixing in. Okay, that's just personal opinion, but then if you go looking on the suppliers and how much they use, it gives you a really good idea of the type of mixes that you're looking for when it comes to experimenting yourself. So have a look on their website. You know which one I'm on about. It's my main supplier. And you can get an idea and have a play around with the different types of ratios. You can use, say, 60% of wool that you like at home, but it's a really quite a coarse one, say like for instance a Masham or a Finnish wool, and then blend that with an alpaca. So say you go for a 60-20, and then you've got 20% left over. So out of that ratio you might want to add in I don't know, say some rose fibre. Into that you could go another 20%, or you could go I don't know, 60% on your Finnish wool, add in some Corriedale if you wanted to at 20%, add 10% of alpaca, and then 10% of rose fibre. So you can play around with it, but that's what's good about the blending board, because you're only working in small quantities of roughly about 100-120 grams of fibre. You're not putting onto your drum carder if you've got one of those at home. Use this as your experimenting tool, and then write down your ratios, go off and spin it off, and then see what you think of that projection afterwards. You can work with 50 grams if you want to, and then make up just four Rolags to experiment with. Anyway, that's me. I'm off. The next time we do this video, I think we'll probably bamboo and mulberry silk. I might do as a sample. I'll see what fibres I've got undyed. I think I'm just going to stick with the undyed ones for the moment, just so you can see what they look like, and maybe add a splash of colour in from my mulberry silks and my tussa silks, just to give you that different look. Anyway, that's me. Thank you very much. Don't forget to put any comments, suggestions or questions down below in the comments on the members and on YouTube, and I will catch you up a couple of weeks. Bye for now. Thanks for watching.